Welcome back everyone to another video. In this video we're gonna be building slider for our React store project, and yeah, let's get started by creating the slider component. So let's go to the components, create new folder, slider, and inside the slider we're gonna create new file, slider.jsx. Okay, let's import it to the main. Let's import our slider, and it's right under our navbar section. So for the slider component, we will need some slices, and we will need to provide that to the store of Redux. So what we're gonna do, let's first go to the features folder. Let's go to the features folder and create another folder called slices. And inside that folder create a new file, slider slice, something like that. And now what you want to do, you will go to the Redux toolkit, and you can simply follow this example. So let's import that at the top. Let's const create, and we will need to export it. So let's export const slider slice. It's gonna be equal to create slice, and the name of our slice is gonna be slider. With the initial state we're gonna have like object with a value of 0 that we're gonna change. Think of it like of a page. So when the page is 0, we are displaying that image. When the page is 1, displaying that image. And we will need some length. And for now we can provide 4, but we're gonna change that later. Under that you got reducers like actions. So for the reducers we're gonna have next slide function. Under that we're gonna have previous slide function, and later we're gonna add something for dot slides. Dot slides or dot slide. Okay. Under that we will need to export const. Let's destructure it. Next slide, previous slide, and dot slide. Let's add slider slices, not create slide. So slider slices, the name, and let's add actions. And under that let's export our slider, export default, slider slice dot reducers. What we need to do right now, we need to import them in our store inside the app section. So we exported as slider slice. Let's go to our reducer, like to our store, import, and let's call it now maybe reducer. Okay, so let's call it slider reducer, and let's import it from features, slices, slider slice, and now inside our reducer we can name it like slider, and it's gonna be slider reducer. Slider reducer. Okay, after everything is set up, we can go to the console maybe. Okay, we are missing the class name somewhere. That's probably inside our navbar over here. Let's change that. Everything is okay. And what's the main reason I opened the console? A story not screaming at us. So okay, let's close it for now, and let's start adding logic inside our slider slice for our carousel. So in slider size, we're gonna have something like inside the next slide, we're gonna provide the state and we're gonna provide the action. Okay, we're gonna console log ourselves action later action, and let's console log the state as well to see what we got. State, and now let's put state.value. We're gonna change this. It's going to be equal to action dot payload. We're gonna provide the action. If the action is greater than length, we're gonna put it to the 0. Otherwise, it's gonna be action dot payload. But we cannot access the length immediately. We want to access it via state. Okay. For the previous slide, we're gonna provide the state as well. You wanna provide the action. And now state.value, it's gonna be if action dot payload is less than 0, you're gonna put it at the end. So state dot length, otherwise it's gonna be at action dot payload. Okay, am I missing this? State.value. Oh, okay. When that's done, let's go to our slider, and for simplicity, let's create two buttons right now. So button 1, it's gonna be next, and under that button we're gonna have button with the previous. Okay, so how we're gonna access our slices? We're gonna simply import our next our actions. So we're gonna import those actions inside our component. So let's import next slide, previous slide, and dot slide, but it's not set up yet. So we import the slices, and now what you need to import from the Redux, it's called use selector and use dispatch. So from React Redux. Okay, when you imported that, you can create something like slide index here, and it's gonna be equal use selector. And what we're gonna be using right now, we're gonna return ourselves state.value. I mean not the value. You're gonna access the state. Then after that, you're gonna access the name. It's slider, and after that, you're gonna access the value. So it's gonna be the state, then the name, then the value. And we can console.log slide index. Let's console log it. As you can see, slide index is 0. As here, if we change it to the 5, it's 5. Okay, let's leave it to the 0. And const dispatch use dispatch. Let's make dispatch simple as that. And now inside the button on click, you're gonna provide a function that's gonna be returning dispatch. And now you need to name of the action, and dispatch gonna use the next slide here. So next slide here, and inside the next slide, what you're gonna provide for our button, it's gonna be slide index. So next slide, it's gonna accept slide index plus 1. When we go next, we are getting slide index 1. And we are also console logging our action. So it's payload. So let's console log. As you can see, we are logging the whole object with the type and with the payload. So let's simply console log the payload here and we will get the 1. So let's go. Next, action is 1, slide index is 1 because we put it in the state.value. We are changing the state.value with the action.payload. And let's copy this, paste it down here and change it to the previous slide and it's gonna be -1. Now we're gonna decrease it. So let's refresh. When we go with the next slide, we are getting some action here because I console log the state. I'm in the state here. We got some state. We got the action.payload. As you can see, it's 1 now because we access the object inside the payload. If we are accessing the action, we are getting the object and we are changing our state with here. If action.payload is greater than this length, we're gonna put it to the 0. We can go next. It's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and now it's greater than 4, it should be 0. So now it's 0. Otherwise, we are putting it like we are increasing it with our slide index +1. And here, like this is globally, you can access it in any other component. It, it's it should be any other component. It's not like pre-qualified to be this slider component. Just call I just call this slider section for name convention. So let's go back to the slider and here with the dispatch we are dispatching that to our slider section, I mean to our store. Our store is wrapped around our whole application and we can access it anywhere. Just import the actions and then dispatch that to our slices or store. So with the previous slide, let's see what we are getting with the previous slide. If action.payload is less than 0, if we're gonna go back, we should be getting the length of 4. Let's go to the previous and as you can see it's working. Otherwise we should go -1 and everything is working as you can see here. We are changing, let's go to the 2, 1, 0. Okay. And now what we need to do, we need to access some data. So here in our assets, I provided a dummy data that we're gonna be using. We got some images, we got some IDs, and we got some text. Okay, so let's start styling now our component. So first, let's create a div here. Let's create a div here, and that div gonna have the class name of, let's add class name here, and it's gonna be relative. Relative padding bottom is gonna be 4. Inside that div, we're gonna have another div, and in that div, we're gonna have this dummy data, slider data. So we need to import it. Let's import slider data from our assets data dummy data, and now we need to loop through it. So slider data.map, it's gonna be, let's call it slide, or item, I like to call it item, whatever you want. Let's provide index, and now let's return, I'm missing tr, return a div, and inside that div we're gonna have key because it's screaming at us. Let's add item.id, refresh it, everything is okay. Then we will have the class name later, and let's add another div inside that div, we're gonna have the image source item.image, and alt you can provide shoes. Those are our images here that we're gonna be using for our carousel. For the images, let's add class name. It's gonna be height. They're gonna be big images. Okay, width full, but you know what? Let's add that later. It's looking really bad on the mobile screen right now. And under that div, where we got the images, let's add another div with the text. That div gonna have the p tag, and here we're gonna provide item.text. And under each image we got text. But what we need to do now, we need to provide some logic to display image. Uh, If the slide index is 0, we need to display this image. If it's 1, we need to display this image, and so on. So let's add some logic and let's add some classes. So first, inside this div where we have item.id, we will create a class name, and inside this class name we're gonna add some logic. As you can see, Sorry, my microphone stopped working. Battery is low. As you can see here, I provided the index, but we can also provide these IDs because I go from 0 to 3, and what we can do now, but as you can see, they are strings, so we need to parse them. Parse int, and we can go item.id. And if this item.id is equal to the index, I mean not to the index, to the slide index, then what we can do, we can play with the class names. Let's add opacity then, and it's gonna be 100. Oops. It's gonna be 100. Duration gonna be 700. Ease in and out, and scale gonna be 100. Otherwise, let's copy this, provide it here. Opacity is gonna be 0 and scale gonna be 95. This is our image over here. Let's try if we go next, we are getting this image. If we go next, we are getting this image. Go next, we are getting this image. But we want them to be in a flex. So let's go next, next, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's bad. What we're gonna do, we are not gonna put it like hard-coded 4 value. We can simply go and import our slider data from, again, assets. So assets, data, dummy data, and where is the length? Let's import slider data dot length. And when we refresh it, we can go next. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, and it's 4. Okay, as you can see, we also got a problem right here because this is the list, and we need to go with the -1 here. And when we refresh it, go next, 2, 3, go next, and we are again getting the first one. Nice. So let's go back to our styling. So for the images, let's parse. Let's remove this index. We will use that later. Let's just use our item now. For the images, let's go parse int if item.id is equal to slide index, then display that image. Okay, after that, let's go back to the text. Inside the text, we're gonna go with a class name, and we're gonna go with the class name. It's gonna be text white. It's gonna be text for Excel. Now it's gonna be, we don't see it, but let's put some class inter, font bold, tracking it's gonna be normal, and leading is gonna be none. Okay, when that is done, let's provide this. Okay, with slide index, then we want that text to be displayed. If the slide index is 0, we want this text to be displayed also as the image. Now what we're gonna do under these divs, we're gonna add another div, and that div gonna be for the dots. So let's add the class name here. It's gonna be flex absolute, bottom of 10, and left we're gonna add 45%. And inside the div we're gonna loop slider data.map. Now we're gonna have dot, and now we're gonna provide the index here. I'm gonna show you that way. We're gonna return the div, and inside that div, what we're gonna add, we're gonna have the class name, the margin of 4, and also let's add another div. And console is screaming at us because we need to provide a key as well. So let's add key of .id, or simply let's provide index now. Everything is okay. So for the dots, let's add a class name, and now we're gonna have if index. Now we're gonna play with the index. We are not gonna parse it here, like using different approach. Index if equals slide index, then we're gonna go with the background of green, 300, rounded, they're gonna be full, padding of 4, and cursor gonna be pointer. Otherwise, what we're gonna do, okay, this is one dot, we're gonna provide, and it's gonna be white. Okay, so this one is active. Let's go to the next one. This one is active. Let's go to this one. This one is active, and okay, but we need to style them more to look better. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the, if you click on these dots, nothing is happening. So let's make this full screen now. It's gonna be easier for us. So this is how it's looking on the full screen. Let's go back on the slider, and let's go to the slider. So here inside the slider slice, what are we going to do? We're gonna add some logic for the dots when the dots is clicked. So let's add state and action again. Let's const slide. It's gonna be action.payload. Then state.value. It's gonna be equal to slide. So whatever the slide it is, so whatever the slide is that we are dispatching, we gonna be, we can go click on that dot and display that image as well. We can console log that as well. So let's call it dot and slide. Okay, so let's go back to the slider, and inside this div we can add on click. Now what you're gonna do, you wanna have the function, you're gonna add dispatch, gonna add this badge, but I made a mistake here. And now, what's the name of our slider? Action, it's dot slide. Did we import it here? We import it. Let's provide it's accepting the index as action. So let's go here to the console. If we click on this slide, dot is 1, dot is slow 2, as well as the slide index, and dot is 3. Go back to this one, and it's 0. Okay, let's style that to look much better. What we're gonna do, so let's go back here. Dots are under there. Oh, for the text, so for this text we can add first class name, and it's gonna be absolute. It's gonna be top of 44, mx auto, in set, it's gonna be x1, and here is our text. And let's style the buttons as well. So for the buttons, let's add a class name, absolute. Okay, it's gonna be absolute. It's gonna be top of 50%. Should be right of 4. Should be over here. And we need to provide that a div. Let's provide it around the div. Top is 50%, right of 4. Where is our button? It's black, so let's add it background white. On that, it's gonna be full. And it's over here, down there, like in the middle. Let's add P2, and on the hover, it's gonna be green of 300. When we hover it, it's there. But we're gonna provide some icons, so let's go to hero icons, and let's search for the arrows. And we're gonna use this arrow for the right side. So where is next? Let's simply add that SVG, change this to the capital letters. And let's check it out. As you can see, this is our arrow, but image is like pretty big, so let's add the styling right now. Let's search for the image, class name, it's gonna be height of 850, and width it's gonna be full. So yeah, this is our image. Right now, for the dots, let's see if we are missing something for the dots. Dots are down there. Maybe we can provide them like more top 12. I think that's okay. Bottom of 12. We don't need this dot, we are not using it, we are using the index. What left is done. We need to go to the previous button, so let's copy this, change this here, line, class name, throw width, and after that let's add the styling as well. Let's copy this class name, provide it here, and it's gonna be left here. Everything else can stay the same. Let's check it out. It's here. When we go to the next, okay, let's see for the dots. Thing is working. Green, rounded, full, pointer. Let's go to here. Okay, we are getting some errors. And let's see what is wrong with our dots right now. Let's check the logic. Did I provide everything? I think everything should be stated value is slide const. Yeah, inside here everything is okay. Let's go back to the dots. What's happening? Let's inspect it to the console with the same key. Okay, let's go provide dot here maybe. Got this key and provide it here, and let's add dot.id. Okay, that should go here. Okay, that's working. Okay, everything is working right now. As you can see, there is also a little animation that we provided here when we scale it to 100, otherwise it's 95. We got some duration, so when we click, like image is popping like from background, as you can see here in the right or left corners. Everything is working, our dots are functional, and yeah, this is it for our carousel. This is it for our first slide, or slice I mean, for React Redux. And yeah, hope you like it. See you everyone next time. Bye.